Welcome to the Leafy Podcast, helping real estate investors and entrepreneurs grow. Say hello to your hosts, Jennifer Glorick and Brian Price, founders of Leafy Legal Services, teaching you how to protect your assets, grow your business, and manage your wealth. Let's start the show.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Leafy Show. Thank you so much for joining us today. Today, we've got our awesome hosts on the line with us. We've got Brian Price and Jennifer Gligorich from Leafy Legal Services, and they have an awesome guest as well to talk to today. So I will go ahead and pass it on to Jennifer and Brian so that they can go ahead and get the show started. Hey, Jennifer. Hey, Brian. How are you doing today?
Great. Well, I'm excited to talk to the person we have today because they're a business growth expert. They started their first company at the age of 14, and then by 18, they started Pro Law Software, the first integrated ERP for law firms. So, of course, we have an affinity for everyone in the law with Leafy Legal Services, and he sold that to Thomson Reuters. He's then went on to have a career in marketing, business to business, being an investor, and helping to see businesses grow. So I am really excited to dig into the marketing aspect and some other aspects of being 18 and having a business and all that with the CEO of Boom Time. So let's welcome Bill Bice to the show. Hey, Bill, welcome to Leafy Podcast.
Hey, Bill.
It is great to be here. Let's do that. Let's dig in.
Awesome. Well, yeah, marketing is one of my favorite subjects. But before we get into the details of marketing, I'd like to hear more about your background and how you ended up with Boom Time and some of the other accomplishments you've done along the way.
Well, Boom Time is like the reaction to all the pain and suffering I've had in all the businesses I've worked on in getting great marketing. So doing that consistently is really difficult. And we have this discipline in marketing that does something that, that we wouldn't put up with like in any other area of our business. It just resists all attempts at scale and efficiency. And, and normally you wouldn't put up with that, but there's something special about marketing that just allows it to happen. I mean, I always joke about how you go into marketing because you don't want anybody to know what you do. I mean, that's like the problem with marketing.
That's funny. You built and invested in a lot of different businesses. And coming from your background, what do you look for a business before you're going to invest with it? And what are the first things you do when you come in as an investor? Because we talk to a lot of different investors, but I'm curious, since you have more of a coding, background, aren't you? Yeah, you have like a tech background. I think the way you approach things and you're a marketing person might be a little bit different than other people. So tell me a little bit about that.
Well, so I do have a real marketing focus because every company that I have helped start or invested in, been on the board of, like how well we did in that company really boiled down to how good we are at the go-to-market. So, you wouldn't invest in a company, you wouldn't join if there wasn't a big enough market to make it worth going after, if you didn't have the team to do it. So you do all this really hard work to create a great product or service, but whether you get the payoff or not is going to be dependent on how good you are at the go-to-market. So are you good at executing on marketing consistently? And the thing that I'm looking for is it's really about the team. I think so many of the other things are really table stakes. Is the market big enough? Is the problem you're solving and your approach unique enough? Whether we're really going to get there or not is going to be dependent on the team. And I think the secret to really being successful in business is to have the persistence to get the timing right. It's really the undervalued piece of any company, which is that it's so hard. It's like trying to predict the market. It's almost impossible. What you have to do instead is have the persistence to stay after it long enough that you essentially get lucky. I mean, it's what happens. You work so hard that eventually the stars align and all that hard work pays off and the market opportunity opens up and you're there and ready to take advantage of it.
So what are some of the mistakes that people make when they're marketing? Because I know we've tried to, we've grown our own businesses and such, and I can attest that, the marketing stuff is usually complex and it takes a lot longer. You think it's one thing and then it becomes entirely something different.
Yeah, I mean, there's two major mistakes in marketing. The first one is talking about yourself. Nobody cares. Most companies have this completely flipped around. Great marketing is talking about what your audience cares about. It's sharing the deep expertise that you have. That's the best marketing. Take whatever the most valuable advice you have is and give it away for free. There's great marketing. But the thing that makes that really difficult is the second biggest mistake, which is the lack of consistency. In fact, I argue that it doesn't even make sense to get started if you're not going to make a long-term commitment and get the hard work done day in and day out, because otherwise you're just not going to get a return on your investment. It's the biggest problem with marketing. It's all the things we've done in the past that didn't work. There are no miracles in marketing. Sometimes you get a little bit lucky, but the only thing that actually works is consistently doing the day in and day out hard work of marketing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
So
having a.
what would you suggest that people start doing, even for yourself, to bootstrap if they're just getting started in their own business?
Well, so if you're, what I specialize in is in B2B, tends to be high value services. So, anything professional services, legal services, great example of that. Mm-hmm. And so the only thing that really works is content marketing. But the beautiful thing about B2B is you really only have to be great at 3 channels. If you're really good at your website, which should be the centerpiece of all your marketing, at email marketing, which, that's a really interesting subject because we all hate the fact that we get way too much email. And yet the solution to that is you need to send out more email. And LinkedIn. If you do those 3 channels really well and intertwine them and understand how the customer journey is working across those 3 channels, essentially how are you pulling people further and further in with a deeper relationship, then you can do just incredible marketing in the B2B space.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about that, because, the big term is bootstrapping, right? And so then you also have raising money and getting funding with it. And there's these 2 camps, like one of them, I've seen people bootstrap to where everything is starved. They're never going to go forward. And then you have the people that raise money and they seem to fritter it away, within 2 years. And you're like, where did all that money go to something? So talk to us a little bit about that and what you've seen with the companies that you've worked with.
So I think the vast majority of entrepreneurs who are out raising money would be much better suited to put that time and effort into getting clients. Most companies should not raise money. That's really the first question. It's not really bootstrap versus raising money. It's what's the best strategy for what you're doing. I mean, there's plenty of startups that have raised a ton of money, which just allowed them to do the wrong things for a longer time period. And there's plenty of companies that given some real capital could have created so much more. So the question is, what's the right strategy for you? And the simplest test right off the bat is, do you really have a realistic story where an investor can come in and say, okay, over the next 5 to 7 years, I believe I will make a 10x return on what you're proposing. And if you can't make the numbers for that work of, okay, I'm going to raise $1 million and I'm going to return $10 million to this investor 5 years from now, based on the percentage of the company I'm willing to give up. The vast majority of people raising money can't connect the dots on that simple story, which is why you never get anywhere, because every professional investor is looking at your pitch with exactly that in mind. So is the market opportunity credible? Is it obvious that you are the team to pursue this? Like, that's the core part of the story. Does it just make absolute sense that this is the perfect team to go after the opportunity that you're describing? And unless you're making that pitch and you can show that 10x return, your time's going to be so much better spent going out and getting clients to pay you real money and not have to deal with all of the frustration and hassle of having these people who now believe they own your company, because in a lot of ways they do.
Yeah. And what do you do for people who are in like different series? It's all great when you get your seed and all that, but what if you get a hiccup? Like, there's a lot of companies, well, kind of not really us, but I mean, there were companies who started and then boom, mass worldwide lockdown. And so they need more cash now, and they can't just go out and get new customers. There's a certain time they're going to have to build up, pivot, market different, pay for people to do something a little bit different because they're having to change, right? So how do you figure that into the scale? So like in a real-time situation, there's one way pre this happening. What about the people who are involved in it now, who are like, I have every opportunity to sail, but we need to go back out, to be able to get through it. What would be your advice to them?
Well, the biggest problem with that is the best way to solve that is your upfront strategy, because things always go wrong, and you can't predict a black swan event like the crisis we're dealing with right now.
Right.
But it always takes more money, and it always takes longer than you think it should. And so that's got to be built into what your plan is for building your company. There's a reason, though, that so many great companies get born out of recessions, and because it forces you to actually focus on what matters. You have to actually create something that people will pay money for in an environment where it's very difficult to get them to do so. And so what happens is the best companies who are built under that pressure really succeed, and companies that were marginal or may have done okay in regular times just don't make it. So you got to decide which one you are. It's not easy.
No, and we have a lot of people on the show, and we were talking to one company, and they were focusing in a real estate venture in a 10 to 15 minute drive from a metroplex, and not even a major metroplex, just a fairly large city center in their state. And they booked in April $10 million of business, and that came out of nowhere, because they just really just started trying to speak to these people with this convenience, but yet they're not in the city. And they realize that there's a ton of people now that are looking to leave right in the markets they had been in. And so I'm noticing that there are people finding different types of investments. We talked to one guy who invested in meat. It's a speculator, and he's making money hand over fist on meat. I mean, there's just so many things that you can do right now if you look at the positivity of it. But we're going out to think. I know that Brian has very specific marketing questions.
This is my favorite topic. So I'd actually like to dig into what makes a good website for the types of clients you're working with. What are some of the things that people should be looking for in their own website?
Well, so the biggest problem with websites is they're almost always designed backwards. So they start with the design, and it's almost always in front of the huge IMAX screen that designer is working with. And yet, even in B2B, 70% of your first-time visitors are going to be doing so on their phone. So you need to do the design mobile first, and you need to start with what you want to communicate, not the design. What we got to do is figure out, well, what are we trying to get across? And then let's build a design that actually does the best job of doing that. So that's the core problem with websites, and why the vast majority of website projects you've ever been involved with have been enormously painful, right? You get this beautiful design, and then you're supposed to figure out what content to form into that. Let's flip that around. Let's figure out what we want to say, then make a design that does that very effectively. And then what we really have to do is focus on the customer journey. What happens when somebody comes to the website? How is it different when they find us via Google? They just know what website to go to. It's a word of mouth referral. We send them an email that drives them to the website. Following that data is just amazing when you learn how people are using the site. And I really want your homepage to be a landing page to sell the business. And yet so many homepages are driven by this, well, we got to do everything for everyone. Well, actually the number one thing we need to do is get prospects to understand what we do, pull them deeper into the funnel, capture their information. And I really only want one thing, which is their email address. Because if I have that one thing, then I can send them a drip campaign. I can tell them our story over time. We're never going to get it done in the 15 seconds they spend on the website the first time they come.
Right.
So if you do all of that, it's amazing how much more effective it is. And I'll give you a specific example that really illustrates it. So do you know what the second most visited page on every B2B website is after the homepage?
No.
About us.
Exactly. It's the About Us page. Because nobody wants to do business with you without understanding who's behind the company. And, and I work primarily with small and medium businesses. That's your advantage over your larger competitors. It's who you are. It's who stands behind the company. So the homepage for your website should be why we do what we do, then who we are, link to the About Us page. And then when you get to that page, so you go pull up somebody's random website right now. First of all, you have to search to find the About Us page because it's going to be buried in the nav. And then it won't be core to telling the story of the company. And when you scroll down to the bottom of the page, there'll be nothing there. there should be a button that then takes you to the next natural step in the
Yeah.
story. That's what I mean by the customer journey, is controlling that story of how somebody uses the website.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense, because I realize, yeah, when I start looking at everything, even I was looking up your site at boomtime.com. I was looking at the About Us section first, I think. So, or what we do, I think I looked at as well. So it seems like, yeah, I get that is in, but yeah, the About Us seems to be done last without really any kind of call to action at the bottom. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, that's what everybody cares about, and getting that passion across about why you do what you do is the core advantage you have. So many small companies want to pretend to be large and corporate, and then you're immediately giving up the biggest advantage you have in how you present yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're talking a lot about marketing, but you also focus on sales. And I was reading your background, and you have the Challenger sale. So can you talk a little bit about that and what that is for, those of us who need to make sales? Because bringing them in is great, but then we need to convert them and get money and move forward. So.
Yeah, the Challenger sale is some research that the Gartner Group did, primarily in Fortune 500 companies, but we've applied it to small and medium businesses where it works really well. And it's essentially taking this insight and perspective driven approach to sales. So instead of going out and just, pitching people or being order takers, which is what has happened to a lot of sales teams, it really is driving the educational process, which is what creates new sales opportunities. And now we're in a world where, you can find out everything online. So if you're not participating in that process and not showing people what the solution is that you have by talking about the problem that you solve, then you're not going to pull people into your approach and your way of thinking. And that's okay if you're the dominant player in your market and you can sit back and be that order taker. But if you're a smaller, more aggressive player, then you have to show, you have to consult, you have to turn your sales process into a consultative process. And the word challenger, where it comes from, are salespeople that are really good at asking questions and sharing insight that gets people to think about their business differently, to create sales opportunities that weren't there before.
Yeah, see, that's really interesting, the way things are changing. And we're getting out, one of the great things to come out of everything that's going on is people talking a lot more online. But the drawback to that is the noise. We see it even with a cut and dry thing like what we do, legal documentation services, entity formation. That's pretty cut and dry. It's a boring entity formation thing, but the misinformation out there is amazing. I can see how, just for us, pushing through bad advice. There's competitors that may not be telling the whole truth about something because they have an entity they want to pitch that's very specific. And it's not just our industry. You see that everywhere. And you see it in, for real estate investors, of course, entrepreneurs in general, and what we do, even in software as a service. Like, oh, you don't want to use Salesforce because they don't use this. I mean, it doesn't matter how big you are. How do you get through the noise when you're a small or medium business to get out valuable information that you could have spent your life, knowing like the back of your hand, to position yourself as an expert for that? What are some tips do you have?
Well, so we covered one, which was the consistency. So that's a given, right? We have to have that. Mm-hmm. But I really only believe in one form of marketing, which is word of mouth. And so the beautiful thing, the flip side of the coin you were just talking about, because we're all connected, it actually makes our ability to leverage this core thing. I mean, word of mouth sounds really old school, and it is. And you
I
have
like it though.
You have to be doing all the right things, right? You have to be taking care of your clients so that they send you referrals. But if that's happening, wouldn't you love to have more of those referrals? And the way to do that is take the same techniques that have always worked, but just scale them up, because we're in this digitally connected world where you can define who your ideal prospect is. And now you can go out on LinkedIn and connect with every single one of them. And then you can constantly talk to them over and over again. And instead of promoting what you do, you instead point out the issues. Next time you start a company, here's the 5 things you definitely want to avoid from day one. Those things inside and out because that's what your business is. And so that's what you share, because that makes, that makes great marketing. What I love about what you do with this podcast is it's an inherently a content generation machine, which keeps you out there in front of your audience. You're sharing information that's really valuable and useful to them, which is just awesome. And so the problem is most companies don't have that. They aren't good at doing that thing. And unless you have a love of creating content, it's really tough to do yourself. You've got to create a content generation machine to be really good at marketing now.
Yeah, you do, because every day there's stuff coming out and you can go down rabbit holes, or you can be just staring at a blank screen like writers would stare at a blank thing. The great thing about when you get into conversations with people is that it becomes organic, and you're able to do that. And the podcast, I was just like, I want to learn a lot more about the niche, and I want to talk to cool people. It was kind of selfish, and then it's just blown up, and now we get to learn from experts like you, and it's challenging. I like being challenged with very differing viewpoints that push against my own limiting beliefs. I know that a lot of people probably don't like that, but I think that that's important too, to do that. But how do you get through?
It's how you get better. It's
yeah.
I love that. And your point about all the noise, that's the other part of that, is people are really looking for real trusted advice. And so the way you build that is to slowly build it over time with an audience that you own and control. That's how you get there. You stop paying a third-party media company to talk to people.
Mm-hmm.
You grow an audience that you own and control, and you share really useful information with them.
Yeah. One thing I liked about Boom Time, and again, we're talking to Bill Bice. He is the CEO of boomtime.com, and he provides package services, of course. So I like the fact that everything he's talking about is evident on his own site. So that's always nice to see. Somebody says one thing, you go to their site and it's like crazy something else, but it's very consistent. But yet, the idea that if you're looking for this one thing, we can help you with this, we can help you with this, and then you have complete transparency on it, which I think is very important as well. Because one of the things that annoys me, especially business to business, is you can't even get a range of anything. Like if you're trying to price something out, you just want to get it, and you have to go through the salesperson shuffle. I mean, yes, I'm going to talk to a salesperson if I'm interested anyway, but I need to know, I'm in the same ballpark. And we get it too, because we have bespoke services. Every investor's legal package is going to be different, but at least I try to give them some range, something, because most people are used to $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, and it doesn't. And of course, that's not what it is with us. But you have to give people range. So I did like that, and I thought that was great on that. I see Brian's doing this. Okay, what questions do you have? I can tell.
Oh well, I was just interested in creating content. We were kind of talking about that before, and how would you suggest people create content? Obviously we have the podcast, that's one way, but what are some other suggestions you have for people to create content for those that may not have a hard time doing it?
Yeah, and most business owners don't have the desire that you have to do exactly this, but what's going on with your clients, what the challenges are that your prospective clients are having. You have all the ideas. The hard part is just all the time it takes to create great content. So what we have done is built a network of subject matter experts, so that we have somebody who already knows your audience and can simply take those ideas and very efficiently expand on them. And I used to be willing, when I started working with a new client, says, okay, I'm gonna write the articles. I'm like, great, because then all we got to do is all the work behind that. But we never made it past month one. Like sometimes we'd get the first article or two, but we never made it to month two, because it's just so difficult. So if you're bootstrapping, then you really have no choice. You're just going to have to do it. But what you have to watch out for is that it will work, and then you'll get busy, and then your marketing will drop off, and then it'll get slow again, and then you'll be in this loop forever. And so instead, you need to anticipate that's going to happen. And if you have a larger business, you need to build that content generation machine. You've got the ideas. You need somebody who's going to create the content for you and is going to do the really hard part, which is get the voice right. And so the two key things there are, don't fall into the copywriter trap, which is somebody who's really good at writing, but last week was working at a car dealership, and this week is supposed to understand your enterprise SaaS application. Like, that's just not going to work. It's going to take too much time to teach them your audience.
Right.
And so you need somebody who understands it inside and out, and then someone who's really going to spend the time to work with you to get the voice right, because they're really ghostwriting for you. And that's a really difficult thing to do. So we had to break that into two levels, the subject matter expert and then the editor, so that even if we're getting different content from different subject matter experts, we have one editor who really understands that company and is able to capture their voice. And so you're going to have to do that in order to be successful at getting that regular flow of great content.
Right.
Yeah, because content is king, and then, but so is consistency. And you're right. I mean, I think everybody has experienced that as an entrepreneur. The phone starts ringing. Well, now I get to sell them. Now it's all about sales. Marketing, not so much. Well, then where are our leads? Well, you haven't been doing any marketing because you were getting all these sales in. And it's just this crazy hamster wheel of doing stuff that you've got to work about. Well, we're getting to the end of the show, guys, and we've been speaking with Bill Bice. He is the CEO of BoomTime. That's boomtime.com. And is there anything you want to leave us with about you or BoomTime, or anything you're working on right now that our listening audience would like to know about?
Yeah, so we just came out with an updated version of our B2B playbook about doing marketing in a recession. You can come to our website and get that. We take our own advice. We take all the things that we have learned by following the data in marketing, and we share that. That's our marketing. And so if you want to do this, we lay it out for you exactly how to do it.
Well, thank you. Yeah, that's great. Okay, Tammy, well, it's that time for you to take us away.
All right.
And
thank you
Bill.
again, Bill, for being on the show with us. And thank you, Jennifer and Brian, for being our hosts today. And I'll have all of Bill's links in our show notes. And if you would like to leave a comment, a rating or review for us, we are found, you can find us at Leafy Legal across any of the podcast platforms. We are also on social media, same thing, at Leafy Legal. And if you do have a recommendation, or if you'd like to leave a comment about the show to me privately, and you can email me at Tammy, Tammy, at leafylegalservices.com, and I will get right back to you. So thank you again for listening in today, and hope you have a wonderful day. Bye-bye now.
Attention real estate investors and entrepreneurs. Did you know that real estate investors are a primary target for lawsuits? According to the National Survey of the Court data, 25% of Americans risk being sued in their lifetime. However, if you are a real estate investor, you have a 95% chance of being sued in the next 20 years. Leafy Legal Services helps you protect your assets and strategically grow your business and wealth. Leafy Legal Services are experts at the Series LLC and Delaware Statutory Trust, two of the newest and most ideal legal structures for real estate investors. Leafy Legal Services have the most personalized and affordable solutions for setting up LLCs. Property owners are always at risk when it comes to their assets. Anonymity is so important. If you own just a rental house and you own your home, you have to protect yourself and your properties from any potential legal issues. Leafy Legal Services have the right solutions to make sure you are happy and feel secure. They offer cost-effective documentation that suits their clients' needs. For a free consultation and ebook, visit leafylegalservices.com. They are waiting to hear from you. leafylegalservices.com.
Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Don't wait. Take action now. LeafyLegalServices.com. Protect your assets, grow your business, and manage your wealth.